Welcome in, my friend. We are going to dive into a fantastic topic today, which is talking about the differences between someone who has a wealth mindset versus someone who has a poverty mindset. And I really wanted to go through this kind of thoroughly with you and kind of talk about 7 of the most foundational pieces or beliefs that people with a wealthy mindset hold. Because here's the thing, there are so many things in the world that we are not in control of and that we are not in control of along this human experience, right? But one thing that we do have power and agency and control over is how we think and what we think and what we choose to believe and what we choose to tell ourselves. That is something that we can take the reins of and take our power over. And it impacts our entire lives. And when it comes to creating wealth, this matters so much. The thoughts that you hold and the belief systems and the mindset that you choose is going to directly impact what is created in your world, right? Thoughts become things. That is what we learn in manifestation because our thoughts create our feelings. Our feelings drive our actions and inactions, and that's what creates our results. So really at the root of so much that we create, it has so much to do with how we think and what we think and the mindset that we hold. And it's so beautiful that this is one area of our life that we do have power over. And this is why you can see that there's so many examples of people who don't come into the planet with wealth. They don't come into the planet with any sense of belief or confidence in themselves. They come in with very challenging circumstances. Maybe they're in a state of survival most of their life, and then they turn it around and they change and they decide, I'm going to, end this cycle and I'm going to create the reality that I want for myself, right? I am going to manifest. I'm going to dream big and I'm going to go after that. One key factor that they need to do along that journey is shift the way that they think. They're not going to be able to take the thoughts that they grew up with, that they learned when they were in a poverty mindset, right? When they were in true poverty or in scarcity or in a survival state. They're not going to be able to take that thinking and create wealth with it. They're going to have to reprogram the way that they think, and they are going to have to shift their mindset into a more wealth conscious mindset in order to create wealth. And many, many, many people do this. And so I'm so excited for you because it doesn't matter who you are. It does not matter. Anyone can use this, right? And anyone has the power to redirect your mindset, to choose on purpose what you want to think, how you want to think, and to practice it. Now, I always say this, you do not have control over the unconscious thought your brain spits out at you, right? Like the thoughts that create anxiety, the thoughts that create panic, the thoughts that create urgency. We don't have control over those primitive thoughts that your brain offers. But what you do have agency over is how you relate to those and which ones you choose to believe. You can notice your brain is thinking and not give into it. This is what meditation is, right? We notice thoughts like clouds. We watch the thoughts. And the more that you practice this tool of metacognition, the more power you will gain over your life experience. So you cannot control just all the thoughts that are coming out and spitting out of your mind, but you can control which ones you latch onto, which ones you choose to believe, which ones you decide on purpose to act from, right? And that's why I like to consciously do this work of deciding how do I want to think and practicing a new way of thinking, right? And I did this. I totally did this because on all 7 of these foundational pieces that I'm going to talk about in terms of a wealth mindset versus a poverty mindset, I was in the poverty mindset, and I have slowly but surely shifted into more so of the wealthy mindset, right? Of like training my brain to think in that way. And what's really fun is back in the day, I used to work retail, and I worked for Neiman Marcus. This was after I graduated from college, and I truly it was in 2008, 2009 when like we had a recession, right? There were not a lot of jobs happening. And so I couldn't find a job. So I decided I would just work retail, right? I was like, anything is better than nothing. Let's just get a job somewhere and start saving some money. Lived in my parents' basement. So I was working at Neiman Marcus. I was in a very much poverty mindset. But what was very fascinating is that I was surrounded by people with a wealthy mindset because the people who were buying from me were wealthy. And I just got intrigued by it. I decided I wanted to start studying it. I wanted to just get curious about it. I wonder how they think. I wonder what's different for them. I wonder what their viewpoint is. And I remember then I had transferred and moved out to California, and I was doing makeup and working a lot of retail. So I worked Nordstrom, Neiman's, Saks, all the brands, Bloomingdale's. And I would go into these locations in like Beverly Hills where there was incredible wealth. And I would just get curious. I used to think like, I wonder how they think. I wonder what is different about their life. What's different about their perspective, right? Why can they create it? And so I would ask that and get really curious. So I have been studying a wealthy mindset for quite some time just by watching and witnessing and then reading about it, trying new thoughts on, and slowly but surely shifting into it myself and becoming the person who can shop at Neiman Marcus now, right? Back in the day, I could just work there. I could not shop there. I was making literally $7 an hour. And that is aging me because that tells you what the minimum wage was back in the day when I graduated from college. So anyways, let's dive into it and let's talk about what I have noticed along this journey. Okay. And I'm going to call it wealthy mindset and I'm going to call it poverty mindset. And the reason I actually want to talk about both is because it's going to help you discern where you're at. And maybe in some of these different 7 foundational belief systems, you'll be like, oh, I am in more of an abundance mindset. I am in more of a wealthy mindset. And in others, maybe you're like, oh, there's some opportunity there. And that is just your opportunity to practice it. And that's what I always tell my clients, practice makes perfect. Think of this as a practice. It is a muscle you are building. So anytime you're trying to build up a new mindset or a new belief system or take on new thoughts, you are truly like it is building a muscle, right? You can't go to the gym and just like do one set of weights and be strong. No, you have to keep showing up daily. Consistency matters. And it's the same with mindset work, right? So just keep practicing it because truly the brain is actually a muscle. So if you want to reprogram your brain, you're reprogramming that muscle. All right. So just stick with it. That is my encouragement. Okay. So the first one is wealthy people focus on opportunity and poverty mindset focuses on obstacles. So the wealthy mindset aligns their frequency with possibility. So instead of thinking, oh God, why is this happening to me? What's going on? Maybe they'll sit in that for a very short amount of time, but they won't stay there. A wealthy mindset thinks, what's the opportunity here? How can I work through this? What is possible? How could this work for me? They ask very empowering questions to think, how can I overcome this obstacle? And the power of our questions are everything. They are huge because the brain and the subconscious mind will answer whatever questions you give to it. So wealthy mindset thinks, what is the opportunity? And when you sit in that question, the answers will be revealed. Ideas will be revealed. All of a sudden, intuition kicks in, looking for opportunities, looking for growth, looking for expansion. And the wealthy mindset moves into that space of growth and expansion. Even if it is uncomfortable, they know that's the way, is what is possible for me. Versus the poverty mindset thinks the opposite, right? They shut something down. The minute there's like an obstacle or something comes up, it's, oh, this won't work for me because, right? Or if they get an idea, they immediately think of why it won't work. And a lot of times this is just programming, right? You might have seen your parents do this or one of your parents do this where they just shut themselves down before they can even get to trying for it. And then we can take on some of that patterned belief systems, but you can absolutely change it. You just got to start asking yourself, what is the opportunity? You have to start asking those more empowering questions, right? Because the poverty mindset dwells on the problem. They think, why isn't this working? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with this? Why is this happening to me? And again, the brain will answer that question, but it's not going to be helpful. So you want to think more about possibility versus thinking about the problem and dwelling on the problem. And for each of these principles, or not principles, but each of these belief systems, I'm going to give you a manifestation truth. So around this opportunity versus obstacles, here is the truth. Your attention is your point of attraction. So when you focus on what's possible, you become a magnet for miracles. So the wealthiest people aren't just resourceful, they're energetically available for solutions the moment they ask. They're ready for solutions and they're willing to take action on that. And that is 100% something that you can develop. Okay, the second one, rich people, wealthy people, I'll just say rich or wealthy, whatever, right? People believe in growth and expansion around money versus poverty mindset believes in limitation and shrinking with money. So the wealthy mindset thinks there's more where that came from. Let's say they get a big lump sum of money. Their belief, their unintentional belief is there is more where that came from. Right? Versus the poverty mindset says, I better hold on to it or I'll lose it. And they actually shrink. A lot of times they get a big sum of money. They feel contracted. They think, how will this ever happen again? It's a fluke. This will never happen again. And the wealthy mindset says, no, there's more where this came from, right? There's an unlimited source of abundance. There's more where this came from. And the manifestation truth around this is that abundance isn't about how much money is in your account. It's about how much you believe is possible, available, and meant for you. So the more expansive your belief, the more money you will allow in. And that is something you can practice. This thought, there's more where that came from. You have to stop telling yourself it is a fluke, because what you do energetically is you shut it down. You shut down expansion when you say it's a fluke, it can't happen again, I don't know how that happened. Shift your mindset into there's more where that came from. There's more where that came from. It will be an absolute game changer. This is work that I personally did. Okay, the third one is that wealthy people invest in themselves and their future. The survival mindset, the poverty mindset waits for proof before they invest, right? And that is because the wealthy mindset believes, I am the asset. I am the asset. And the poverty mindset believes when I have more, then I'll invest. There's a big waiting game in the poverty mindset of, oh, once I have more, once I feel more comfortable, then I'll do it. But the problem is that is what keeps people in a poverty mindset, because the more you wait, the more you wait, the more you wait, right? The more you stay stuck in the same pattern. And it's just because you don't want to stretch yourself. You don't want to believe in the unseen. Whereas the wealthy mindset, because there is this spirit of abundance, there is a spirit of there's more where that came from. There's a feeling of openness and there's a feeling of trusting in the universe. They believe I can invest in myself. I am the asset, right? Or I can invest in my future, or I can invest my wealth because I believe there's more where that came from. It's very, very expansive. And here's the manifestation truth around that is investing is an energetic declaration, right? I trust myself. I trust the universe. I believe in what's coming. You don't wait until you're abundant to invest. You invest to step into abundance, right? It's not a reward. It's a portal into your next level. That is what creates the expansion. It's like you got to do kind of the scary thing first. I always say manifestation is kind of reverse engineering. It's like you got to feel the emotion first before the thing shows up. You have to believe it's possible before you see it. You have to believe in the unseen. There's a lot of trust in all of that. And it's same as with investing. You have to invest before you feel ready, before you have a ton of money. That is what is going to create the wealth. And so a wealthy mindset believes in investing, right? It's big. And this is 100% something you can take courageous action on, try on. I mean, I have seen this firsthand whenever people invest in themselves. The expansion that happens just as an effect of investing in themselves is massive and so big. And you have to take on this thought, I am the asset. I have gifts to share. I am the asset. So of course I am worthy of investing in. Right? Okay. The fourth one is that rich people or wealthy people value time more than money. They also value convenience more than money. The survival mindset or the poverty mindset values money more than time. So, wealthy mindset says, who can help me do this faster? They know that money is infinite and renewable, but time is not. So they think in terms of energetic efficiency and alignment, asking who or what can help me collapse the time to get me there faster. And that is how they build wealth faster. That is how they grow faster. That is how they get things done so much faster and can be so much more productive because they know that time is worth more than money. It is more valuable. Same with convenience, and I'll dive into that because that was absolutely a lesson for me. This whole thing right here of valuing time more than money was a huge lesson to me because I didn't grow up in that. I grew up in DIY. If you know how to do it, you figure it out yourself, right? I really grew up in like, if there's any way to save money, you save it, right? Does not matter how much time it takes. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to learn it. It doesn't matter how frustrating it is to learn it. If you can learn it, if you can do it yourself, do it yourself, right? So I had to relearn this. And I want to talk a little bit about that. So what I was in was the poverty mindset, the I'll do it myself to save money. And those stuck in poverty mindset believe they must trade their time to earn money. So they often say, I'll do it myself to save money, not realizing that they're reinforcing the belief that money is scarce and they have to do it all alone. Right? So the wealthy think in terms of leverage, not labor. And poverty thinks of it in the opposite way. They do not value their time as much, right? And as I've made that shift, I cannot tell you how much more money I started to make whenever I started valuing my time, valuing my energy, valuing convenience. And I want to share a funny story on this around convenience because I used to get really triggered, right? Because like, for example, my husband, he's valued his time and he's valued convenience more. He really did come up with a more abundant mindset than I had. So I've actually learned a lot from him, and I've like just in seeing the way that he thinks, been curious, right? And so I remember when we first started dating and we started, traveling together and all of that, he'd say, there's no way I'm getting on a flight before 11 o'clock. Like that is it. That's the earliest I'm going to go because I want to meditate before. I want to actually feel really good. I want to get enough sleep. I'm not going to wake up early. I'm just not a morning person. So he would never get a flight before 11 o'clock, and the later, the better, right? If it was 12, even better. If it was 1 o'clock, awesome, right? So that was his whole thing was let's find the shortest flight, meaning nonstop, and let's get there as late as we can at the airport. And with that comes a cost because I grew up with the mentality, you pick the cheapest flight. I never looked at flight time. I never looked at how many connecting flights it had. I never looked at what time you got to get to the airport at 4 a.m. Okay, so be it because you don't have to pay as much. But then I realized when I started valuing that, because that's what that was his standard. And on top of it, it's so funny. Like I used to get so triggered by it. I'm like, no, we're going to spend so much more. And he would say, but Jamie, we're going to enjoy our vacation so much more. Like we're going to get there and we're not going to be super tired that first day. We're going to feel really good. We're going to get there faster. It's going to be a smoother day. It's going to be a better experience. And I was like, yeah, but that's going to cost us $200 more. But see, he valued the experience, the convenience, the ease, the time more than he did that $200, right? So I started thinking, well, what if this could be an expander for me? What if I too was worthy of valuing convenience? And I noticed what a difference it made whenever I was willing to look at the more convenient option, the more efficient option. Oh my gosh, did traveling get better? And as much as I travel makes all the difference. And so I just had to really work on feeling worthy of that, because I realized that was something I didn't believe I was worthy of. Like, oh no, I shouldn't be spending that extra on that. That's just time. That's just convenience. I don't spend money on that. But as I've been shifting into believing in abundance and shifting into a more wealth conscious mindset, I've done that work and it's made all the difference. And I will also say, as a caveat, like, this is also something where you have to look at, where you're at, because when I was 21, there was no way I could actually value all this convenience over it. So it's a mindset that I've built. And as time went on and I started expanding my income, right, that's when I've stepped more and more into this and just feeling comfortable and feeling worthy of it. So it is about stretching yourself a little bit, but then also just noticing your own values, right? So just think about how you can step into convenience and efficiency a little bit more. Is there times in your life where you could pay a little bit more for a lot more time back and a lot more convenience, a lot more ease, right? That's one of my favorite things that money pays for, is it pays for convenience. It pays so that you don't have to sometimes go through super stressful and annoying experience, right? It can pay for ease. Okay, so that's a fun one to step into. Another one is, this is the fifth one, is that wealthy people normalize big numbers, and that survival/poverty mindset is very intimidated by big numbers. And that is numbers coming in, big money coming in, and sometimes big money flowing out. Wealthy people normalize that, right? They sometimes invest a lot of money, or big amounts of money even flow out, but they know that it's coming back. Same with big numbers coming in, is just more normal. So their mindset, for example, is $10K a month in business is just a starting point. Or maybe it's even $100K in business. That's just a starting point, right? Whereas the poverty mindset says, I could never imagine that much. I could never do something like that. Why me? Who am I to do it? Wealthy mindset says, who are you not to do it? Why not? Why not? Right? We all come in equally worthy and capable and able to do this kind of thing and to think on purpose and to show up and shine our light in this lifetime. And if you start taking on that opportunity mindset of, how is this an opportunity? How can I grow? How can I expand? There's no reason that you cannot create big numbers, right? So wealthy people stretch their nervous system to hold more before the money arrives. So here's the manifestation truth that I have for you around this and around big numbers. Before money arrives physically, you must hold it energetically. So wealthy people stretch their capacity to feel safe, worthy, and grounded at higher levels before the money shows up. They manifest big money by making it feel normal, not far away. They make it feel normal. They make themselves feel capable of it, and they don't look at it as something that is out of reach. And this is something that you can train your brain and your nervous system to do. In fact, I've got a hypnosis on this that I give to the people inside of the money manifestation movement, is normalizing big numbers, right? Normalizing big numbers coming in, normalizing big numbers, moving out or investing in other things, and really just normalizing the flow of big money. That is normal. Okay, the sixth one is Wealthy people see sales as service, whereas that poverty mindset sees sales as manipulation. So wealthy mindset says making offers can help people. It makes a difference in the lives of others. It is a service. This is an act of service. It is an act of love. They have good feelings about making offers. They have good feelings about exchanging money for goods or services. Whereas that poverty mindset says, I don't want to be a bother to anyone. I don't want to come off as greedy, right? Because the wealthy mindset trusts that the right people are already being drawn to them and that sharing their offer is a part of their purpose, right? And then that poverty mindset feels guilty for it. They say, oh gosh, I'm taking something away from someone. And here's the manifestation truth around this one. When your offer is rooted in service and integrity, not offering it is the disservice, right? That's what you should feel guilty about, is not offering it, because you have a gift to offer the world. And if you hold it in, that is not true abundance. That is not service. So sales becomes magnetic when you believe in the transformation, you trust the timing, and you let the universe handle the how. That's the truth right there. So let me just reinforce that, knowing selling is service. Selling is sharing your gifts with the world. That is the most abundant thing you can do. This is a practice, y'all. This is something that you can lean into. What if making an offer is the highest act of service? It is a high act of love, and root yourself in that knowing, because it is the truth. And holding your gifts back is coming from a place of scarcity and poverty mindset, and it's not doing any good for the world. All right? Let's go for the last but not least mindset of the wealthy versus poverty mindset. Rich people take radical responsibility, or we can say the wealthy mindset take radical responsibility, whereas the poverty mindset blames external circumstances for everything, right? So wealthy mindset says, I create my results. I have the power to create my results. They own their energy, their decisions, and their outcomes, which puts them in the driver's seat of abundance, right? This is why they are co-creators with the universe. They create abundance. They put themselves in the driver's seat by believing that they can create their results. And they believe, okay, when something happens, it's about how I react to that. That is what I have control over. How I react matters. So it's not that they don't believe that obstacles will come up or challenges, but it's all about how they react to it, how they think on purpose when something does happen, when an obstacle arises, and they just take responsibility and think I create my results. Versus the poverty mindset says it's the economy, it's the clients, it's a family, it's the boss. That's the reason I'm stuck, right? Which there's nowhere to go from that. If everything around you is your reason for being stuck, you will stay stuck. There's nowhere to go, and you will stay in that poverty space, right? So this creates an energetic loop of victimhood, signaling to the universe that you're not ready to lead your next level. Whereas ownership creates power. Blame creates powerlessness. So the manifestation truth with that is that ownership is magnetic. When you claim your role as a creator, you shift from waiting to receive, from stuck to unstoppable. Blame blocks abundance. Responsibility activates it. And that is the truth. So I've left you with some things to think about with this episode, and I'm not going to lie, it might be one you want to listen to a second time or a third time or a fourth time, because these are all fantastic reminders. And there may just be one of these 7 areas that you want to get started working on first, right? Practicing one of the thoughts that I offered or one of the belief systems from the wealthy mindset and leaning deeply into that. Maybe there's one certain area that just feels sticky. So I would recommend starting there and remembering practice isn't, let me say that again. And remembering it's about practicing, not being perfect. All right. It's not about perfection. This is about just coming back to it, coming back to it, coming back to it. So I hope this episode was helpful as usual. That is my intention, is to help you see where your power lies and see that you have the ability to create that wealthy mindset and to step into the wealth that you desire. You are worthy of it. All right, my love. Happy manifesting.